Welcome to audiobook, Xianxia Cultivation System, a reincarnation fantasy novel. Cultivation World. She Only Want to Farm in Peace, written by Dai Pham, narrated by Jessica. Book 1 introduced the story. Background: Ye Jun, a man from South Korea, had his life upturned during a holiday when a landslide sent his car tumbling into a ravine, ending in tragedy. After being reincarnated, he embarked on a new life as a cultivator. However, it wasn't until a fateful clash over a rare artifact ended this second life that Ye Jun's memories from his first life suddenly came flooding back. Reincarnated again, this time into the fragile body of a young girl on the brink of death, Ye Jun's latent memories and experiences from both past lives merge, awakening a mysterious golden hand system. This commercial production system allows him to cultivate and sell agricultural products, setting him on a unique path to prosperity. Starting from the very bottom of the cultivator society, Ye Jun faces the harsh realities of this mystical world, including a devastating war that disrupts his farming aspirations. As he battles adversity, he must rise against all odds, striving to leave his mark in the world of cultivators. In that situation, what must he do to rise up and no longer remain at the bottom of society in the world of cultivators? Let's follow the journey of Ye Jun. Chapter list. Introduction. Book 1 has a total of chapters 1 to 13. Total 17,826 words. Song of Book Series. Cultivation, a fleeting dream, a misty path. HTTPS. Udu, BE, JDF, PPLB, ISG. Copyright from Pham Duc Dai. Chapter 1, year 2030. Southeastern South Korea, Hangdong-hang region. January 30th, 2030. Ye Jun was driving his small car to Hangdong-hang for a vacation. His first holiday of the year after a long and exhausting year at work. After more than 4 hours on the road, the highway seemed far less crowded than other areas. It was a long, seemingly endless route in South Korea. Owning a car had become incredibly common. In the past, cars were expensive, but nowadays they were affordable and widely used. Most young adults, upon graduating, could expect their parents to buy them a car. Ye Jun was no exception. He had owned his car for nearly 10 years and never replaced it, even after becoming fully independent and moving out of his family home. At the end of January, he decided to reward himself with a well-deserved grand vacation. He had booked a hotel in Donghang for a week of rest and seaside relaxation. With all expenses paid in advance, all he had to do was get himself to Donghang. After more than 4 hours of driving on the main highway, Ye Jun remained focused on the road, carefully observing his surroundings. Suddenly, a massive boulder, loosened by a landslide, tumbled down from the mountainside. It was a heavy rock, weighing several hundred kilograms, crashing down with terrifying speed and force. The boulder plummeted toward the road, landing just a few dozen centimeters in front of Ye Jun's car. Shocked and panicked, he instinctively swerved to avoid it. The rock hurtled past the front of his car, slamming into the guardrail. With a deafening crash, it tore through the barrier and plunged straight into the sea below. Ye Jun let out a breath of relief, grateful to have narrowly escaped. But before he could fully process what had happened, the smaller, loosened rocks and debris followed, rolling down in a secondary collapse. The force of the landslide pushed his car sideways across the road before slamming it against the barrier. Then, before he could react, the car plummeted toward the ocean. As the vehicle tumbled downward, spinning uncontrollably, dizziness overwhelmed Ye Jun, and his vision blurred before everything went black. A few minutes later, he regained consciousness. To his relief, he was still inside the car, unharmed. For now. However, icy seawater had already flooded up to his knees. Struggling, he hastily unfastened his seatbelt and searched for something hard to break the car window. But the water pressure outside was too strong, making it impossible to force the door open. The water level continued to rise, inch by inch. Panic surged through him. He tried to calm himself and reached for his phone to call for help. But as soon as he pulled it out, his heart sank. The phone was shattered, its screen cracked, and the battery visibly warped from the impact. No emergency call. No way to contact anyone. Pure terror gripped him. His breathing grew ragged, and his thoughts spiraled into chaos. He screamed, "Damn it! What the hell do I do now?" He tried to think, forcing himself to suppress his fear as much as possible. The seawater kept rising, inching higher and higher until it reached Ye Jun's chest. The water pressed against his body, an uncomfortable pressure set in. He struggled to remain calm, pushing away the overwhelming panic and fear in an attempt to think of a way to save himself. The water continued to pour in, yet he couldn't find a single useful object to break the car window. When the water level reached his ears, his fear finally overtook him. He lost all sense of composure, thrashing wildly, desperately gasping for the last remaining pockets of air. And then, as the water completely engulfed the car, he made one final attempt, kicking at the window with all his strength. But the crushing pressure of the seawater was too much. The glass didn't even budge. Panic consumed him like never before. The more he struggled, the faster his lungs burned through the remaining oxygen. Meanwhile, the car continued sinking deeper into the ocean, the light from above fading rapidly into darkness. With the last of his strength and the final scraps of air in his lungs, Ye Jun kicked the window one last time. Nothing changed. Regret hit him like a tidal wave. This vacation, this damn trip. As his last breath left his lips, the only thing that filled his lungs was the stinging, salty seawater. His body convulsed in a desperate fight against the inevitable, every nerve screaming for survival. He wasn't ready to die. There was still so much in life he hadn't experienced, so much he had yet to see. And yet, he was going to die here. The last remnants of air disappeared. His body went still. His vision, blurred and murky in the deep dark blue of the ocean, faded completely into blackness. Chapter 2. After his death, Ye Jun's soul traversed to another world known as the Langhu world. This world was a lower domain of the Thuanglan world. It was an immortal cultivation world where individuals were born with spiritual roots, innate gifts that allowed them to embark on the path of cultivation, becoming cultivators, and ultimately ascending to immortality, living eternally. The Langhu was divided into 5 regions: the central continent and the 4 directional continents, east, west, south, and north. Each region was dominated by the strongest faction within its territory. Among them, the western continent was infamous as the land where cultivators practiced dark and forbidden arts. It could be said that this was the sacred ground of the demonic sects, a place where heinous crimes were committed without restraint. The notorious reputation of this demonic sanctuary spread far and wide, even reaching other continents despite the vast oceans filled with countless monstrous beasts that separated the regions. The brutality and atrocities of the Western continent persisted unchecked, yet the cultivators of the other 4 continents, despite knowing of its existence, had never attempted to unite and eradicate these dark forces. It was as if they had turned a blind eye, allowing it to grow and develop freely. The 4 continents, east, west, south, and north, were separated by a vast ocean, with the central continent positioned in the middle. For centuries, the righteous cultivators had neglected to band together against the dark forces of the West. As a result, this region had flourished into the ultimate stronghold of the demonic path, where evil cultivators thrived and multiplied. Over time, it became the undisputed sanctuary of the demonic sects, The other 4 regions seemingly chose to ignore its existence, abandoning the people of the Western continent to their fate. Chapter 3. Introduction to the cultivation system in this world. Mortal, level 0. Lifespan of 0 to 150 years. Chi refinement, level 0 to 10. Lifespan of 1 to 200 years. Foundation establishment, level 11 to 20. Lifespan of 200 to 400 years. Golden elixir, level 21 to 30. Lifespan of 400 to 800 years. Nascent soul, level 31 to 40. Lifespan of 800 to 1600 years. Transformation, divine transformation, level 41 to 50. Lifespan of 1600 to 3600 years. Void refinement, level 51 to 60. Lifespan of 3600 to 6000 years. Counter void, level 61 to 70. Lifespan of 6000 to 12,000 years. Unity, level 71 to 80. Lifespan of 12,000 to 20,000 years. Tribulation, transcendence, level 81 to 90. Lifespan of 20,000 to 40,000 years. Human immortal, level 91 to 100. Immortal, Earth immortal, level 101 to 110. Immortal, heavenly immortal, level 111 to 120. Immortal, Great Lu, Gold immortal, level 121 to 130. Immortal, Immortal Emperor, level 131 to 140. Immortal from the tribulation. Transcendence, cultivators could ascend to immortality, reaching a level above 90 and ascending to a higher world known as the Thuong Lan world. In a small village in the western region of the Langhu world, a cultivator named Du Nan, who had reached the golden core stage, had just seized a powerful treasure from a mysterious secret. Other cultivators, furious at losing the treasure, immediately gave chase, determined to plunder back what they had lost. Du Nan shouted, "I got it first. Stop chasing me." The pursuing demonic cultivators sneered. "Leave the treasure behind and we will spare your life." "Ha! In your dreams. If you wanted it, you should have been faster." Du Nan laughed wildly as he soared through the sky, stuffing a chi recovery pill, spiritual energy, into his mouth to rapidly replenish his spiritual energy. Behind him, the relentless pursuit of the demonic cultivators showed no signs of stopping. "The treasure is already mine," Du Nan taunted. "You'll never take it from me." He sped up, pushing beyond the heart of the secret realm. But no matter how long he flew, the persistent pursuers showed no signs of giving up. Exasperated, Du Nan grumbled, "Just give up already. Why are you all so stubborn?" After days of relentless fleeing, he had exhausted a vast number of chi recovery pills, yet the demonic cultivators still refused to relent. Gritting his teeth, Du Nan continued to flee at full speed. As he neared the exit of the secret realm, a triumphant grin spread across his face. "Ha! Once I leave, you'll never be able to track me down. Ha ha ha!" With a burst of speed, Du Nan shot out of the secret realm's entrance. But the moment he emerged, a sudden, chilling sensation washed over him. So fleeting that it barely registered, yet enough to send a shiver down his spine. Du Nan thought he had successfully escaped from the secret realm and was safe. However, he had no idea that outside the portal, another group of demonic cultivators had already set up an ambush, waiting to attack and plunder treasures from any cultivator who emerged. The moment he stepped out, he found himself trapped in a massive net that tightened around his body. Before he could activate a talisman or summon an immortal artifact to defend himself, he was already ensnared. The ambushers smirked. "Oh? Isn't this Du Nan? Hand over everything you took from the secret realm and we'll grant you a mercy death. Dunan chuckled bitterly. I'm already in your hands. Do as you wish. His voice remained steady, filled with unyielding defiance. Without hesitation, they seized his storage pouch and swiftly looted everything inside. This was the Western region, infamous for its cruelty, where demonic cultivators thrived in large numbers. One of the ambushers smirked before activating a art, slicing off chunks of flesh from Dunan's body, savoring the torment. Racked with unbearable pain, Dunan gasped, "Just give me a quick mercy death. I beg you." He knew that once captured by demonic cultivators, there was no chance of survival. But his pleas fell on deaf ears. The tormentor continued using his art to carve away more flesh, then severed Dunan's limbs before slowly extracting his organs. At the Golden Core stage, a cultivator's body was far more resilient than an ordinary human's. Even after losing so much flesh and blood, Dunan could still cling to life. One by one, his organs were removed. The agony became so overwhelming that his senses dulled, leaving him in a numb daze. He could only stare blankly as his torturer continued to mutilate his body, awaiting the inevitable end. At that moment, memories from his past life suddenly surged forth. Dunan's true name resurfaced. He had once been a man from South Korea. He recalled his tragic death in his previous life, drowning inside a car after a terrible accident sent him plunging into the sea. A bitter smile crossed his lips. What an ironic fate. Only now, on the verge of death, did he regain the memories of his past life. If he had remembered sooner, perhaps he would have never walked the path of a demonic cultivator, never fought for treasures or sought fortune. He could have simply lived a quiet life. With a weary sigh, his soul drifted out of his mutilated body. The demonic cultivators continued dismantling his bones, stripping away his bones piece by piece. As Dunan's soul left his body, it was immediately struck by another surge of mystical energy. His soul began to unravel, slowly dissolving into nothingness. Before his soul, divine soul, completely faded away, Dunan muttered, "You people are truly ruthless." The nearby demonic cultivators merely chuckled in response, offering no reply. Normally, when a cultivator's soul departs from their body, it enters the cycle of reincarnation, destined for a new life. However, if their soul is shattered, the chance of reincarnation becomes non-existent. Their essence dissipates into the heavens and earth, merging with the spiritual energy of the world. With the death of the demonic cultivator Dunan, his fate seemed no different from countless others in this world. Yet, against all odds, something miraculous. Dunan, along with the memories of his past 2 lives, was reborn in another body, in a distant land within the vast at Langhu. And so, the journey of Dunan, now Ye Jun, truly begins. It was as if fate had granted him another chance, a new life in a distant continent. His second reincarnation placed him in the Western region, a place dominated by demonic cultivators. In such an environment, trying to live as a righteous person was nearly impossible, as cruelty and brutality were an unending cycle. Here, only sects dedicated to dark and forbidden arts thrived. Sects that used humans as cultivation resources, refining them into elixirs. Those who wished to cultivate and gain power, or even just survive a little longer, had no choice but to embrace this path. Dunan was no exception. He lived the life of a demonic cultivator, clawing his way to the early Golden Core stage in this ruthless land. He once believed that reaching this realm would grant him a better life than ever before. But things did not go as he had planned. He met his end while competing for a treasure in a hidden realm, becoming nothing more than a stepping stone for other demonic cultivators. Chapter 4. In a small village near the Than Van, Qingyun Blue Kluod sect, located in the northern continent. Thanvan sect was a minor third-rank sect, with its strongest cultivator at the mid-nascent soul stage. It was said that centuries ago, the sect had once produced a cultivator who reached the peak of the spirit transformation stage, but after failing his tribulation, he vanished without a trace. Situated near the sea, Thanvan sect served as a gateway to the depths of the northern continent. In this village lived a poor farming family, rogue cultivators with only the first and second levels of qi refinement. Their household consisted of a husband, wife, and their young daughter. Their daily livelihood depended on cultivating spiritual plants, which they sold to alchemy sect or general stores belonged to sect. If the plants bore seeds, they became provisions for cultivators, often sold to grain stores or specialized market sect. However, the price of their grain was far lower than that of rare spiritual herbs used in cultivation. Yet, growing those precious herbs was no easy feat. Lacking the resources to cultivate high-value spiritual plants, their lives remained humble. From the day their aptitude for cultivation, spiritual roots, was discovered, they were accepted into Thanvan sect as spiritual farmers. As part of their training, they were taught basic spells free of charge, simple techniques to aid their farming within the cultivation world. The two fundamental techniques granted to them were earth manipulation and water manipulation. Beyond these, they were also taught a basic low-tier cultivation technique known as the Qi guidance art, specifically designed for nurturing plants. This technique not only allowed them to absorb spiritual energy, but also to infuse it into their crops, promoting growth. Though widely available to commoners, it had a strict limitation. It could only bring a cultivator to the peak of the qi refinement stage, merely allowing them to escape a mortal's fate. Reaching the first level of qi refinement alone extended a mortal's lifespan to 200 years. For those living peaceful lives, such longevity was considered a blessing. In this world, ordinary mortals could theoretically live up to 150 years, but such cases were rare. Most commoners barely reached 100. Thus, when someone was discovered to have spiritual roots, even low-grade ones, they gladly joined the cultivation world, receiving free basic training. In return, they became laborers for their sect. Yet, even if they spent the next 100 years as mere servants, coolly indentured servant, they still saw it as a worthwhile trade-off. As mere mortals, they had lived a harsh and exhausting life, tilling the fields day after day, only to surrender 50% of their harvest as taxes to the imperial court. With the remaining half, they could barely scrape by. And if natural disasters or wars struck, their already fragile existence teetered on the brink of collapse. To these commoners, being accepted and sheltered by a sect in the cultivation world was a fortune beyond measure, even if their lives were no different from their mundane existence. In this context, acceptance merely meant being allowed to live near areas managed by immortal sects or noble cultivation clans. The cultivation world was filled with spiritual energy, which could extend human lifespans. Even mortals who resided in such environments would live longer. However, the dangers of this world loomed constantly, threatening to snatch away their feeble lives at any moment. As long as they were taken in by a sect or noble cultivation family, they could live with relative stability, working hard and offering their labor with gratitude.
If you want to know more details about Ye Jun's journey, buy the book on Amazon.